I know we got National Signing Date, and we'll talk a little bit about that. Just a little bit of a football update. Back at it now, practice-wise. So today was practice 3 this week, which was really good and intense practice. Full padded, guys were working. Obviously, we've got 2 more this week before we take a little bit of a break. And the beauty of it for us is the health. Like, I think those 2 weeks really helped us. We got back into our groove here at the end of last weekend with a couple practices on Friday and Saturday. Took a break on Sunday, and now we're really back to it. So I'm excited about the process that we're in. I think the players are really dialed into the schedule that we have, which has been effective. And so we're in game plan mode, which is good. It's fun. I know the players like that aspect of it all. So that part's been really good. As far as signing day, which I thought our staff did a heck of a job of a few things here with this class. One, recognizing the needs that we had on the team. Some immediate needs, some long-term needs predicated on where our depth issues might have been on the roster. 2, identifying players that fit who we are, fit physically, right? The physical skill set in kind of the way they play, their style of play, but I think also fit character-wise. These are really good young men, and I think they fit in our culture. And I want to credit our current players for the job they did in help recruiting these guys and getting this class here. I say it every year. Every coach gets up, and I've never heard a coach get up and not be excited about his signing class. Okay, so but I am excited about this class. I think there's a lot of depth to it. I think there's a lot of versatility to this class. Naturally, when you just look at sheer numbers, clearly receiver was a position where we wanted to address, and we may not be done there yet. But to have 4 receivers in this class, 3 high school and a transfer, I think is big for us. The next position, obviously defensive back, signing 6 defensive backs, guys with a lot of versatility. And I know we always want to label guys corners and safeties, but the way we play with 5 DBs, the majority of the time, they have to be versatile players. And the more versatile they can be, the more opportunities they can provide for themselves, whether it be corner, at the star position, or at safety. So excited about that. And then I think the last piece that was really important was the defensive line of scrimmage, and to sign 5 really good players at that spot with the 2 edges and then 3 interior guys. I think that helps solidify some things. So not to take anything away and not to just start singling one guy out at a time. I know we'll get asked about that. I just think this was a really complete class, really versatile. And like I said, I don't think we're quite done yet. I think we'll have a couple things to go here over the next day or 2. And then as the portal shapes itself out, you never know what happens there. So, but all in all, proud of our staff and the job that they did, our recruiting staff, our coaches. Recruiting takes everybody. And everybody did a great job, including our players, and excited about this group of guys because I think they're made of the right stuff to come into our program and be successful.
Raise your hand if you have a question. We'll get a mic to you. Here on the left, Danny.
By the way, heck of a sweater, Danny. You always blow it out with the sweaters, man. Is that a cat? Yeah, I was just wondering.
How much of an emphasis do you and your staff put on recruiting defensive backs and kind of restocking that?
Well, yeah, I do. I think that when we went into the year, clearly we knew it was a position that we needed to, hey, how are we going to continue to recruit the types of players that we want to play with? And we've been talking for a couple of years now about wanting to be tighter in coverage, right, and playing a style of defense where when you're tight and confident in coverage, you can be aggressive at the line of scrimmage to get to the quarterback. So we want to make sure that we could recruit, all these players that we recruited, all 6 of them have good size and good length. They're really good tacklers, but they all have the ability to play coverage and play man coverage, whether they end up being a safety, a star, or a corner. And then with some of the attrition that we got at the safety position and at corner through the portal, we really had to fulfill some of those spots. And we were able to do that. I thought, like I said, Coach Joseph, Coach Gideon did a nice job identifying some of those guys and then finishing the job and getting them on board today.
In the middle, Bob.
How much have you had to change the way you've gone about this with the dynamic of the portal being open, guys leaving, guys coming? plus everything you're trying to do with high school recruits. How different has it been, and what are some of the challenges you face when you're trying to change all the?
Yeah, I mean, I still think in the end, if I had my druthers, you take your high school kids, you get them immersed into your program, you get them immersed into your culture, they grow and they build in your culture and in your program, they earn their playing times, and that they all become part of your culture. But nothing has really changed for us as it pertains to the portal in that when we go to the portal, we're trying to fill immediate needs. How do those needs occur? A variety of reasons, right? It could be injury. It could be our own attrition from the portal, guys leaving our program. It could be, hey, we made a mistake or two in recruiting. That can happen. We try to make this a science, but there is no science for whatever reason. Sometimes guys just don't work out. And so you have to be flexible enough, is what I say. I'm just not of the adage of making a living in the portal and signing 10, 12, 15 guys a year out of the portal and trying to recreate my culture every year. I think that we have created a culture here of one that we have a lot of pride in, and I know the veteran leaders on our team have a lot of pride in, and now that influx of young players, they can help educate them on what it means to be a Longhorn. When you start bringing in a lot of transfers at that top level positions, now you're really trying to recreate that culture. And so, hey, when we go to the portal, it's because we're really trying to fulfill a need, a very specific need where somebody can come into our program and have immediate impact on the field and in our locker room for that matter. All the guys we go into the portal for, they fit what we're about. And I'll just touch on the two here. Matthew Golden and Andrew Makuba, experienced players. Makuba, 3-year player at Clemson. Golden, 2-year player at Houston. Very productive players, have played a lot of football. When you get to visit with them and talk to them, they're made of the right stuff. And so they fit in pretty seamlessly for us. And so that's the key. If we're going to go to the portal, do they have the skill set to make us better? Can they fill a need? And then would they fit our culture and the mindset that they have? And those two guys definitely do that.
Over here on your far left.
Excuse me, I apologize.
Steve, the interior defensive linemen are probably the hardest to find outside of, I don't know, you tell us if it's the hardest or most important position, difference makers at that position. Can you talk about January and Robinson and Hills and, and your mindset on getting that position?
It is a difficult position because I think, from the naked eye, you can turn on a lot of big people that play defensive line in high school football, and they can all look like good players. But sometimes the level of competition can make them look a little better at times, depending on what they're going against, the program that they're in, the way they've been developed, trying to forecast what they can become when they get into our weight room and get into our program and strength and conditioning program with Coach Becton, when they get to work with Coach Bo every day and what that looks like. And so the 3 guys we signed interior-wise, we're really excited about. Melvin Hills comes from a great program, Lafayette Christian, that he's a worker. He's a grinder. We had him in camp. We know what he looks like. He had a very productive senior season. He became a real leader on that team. I think he's made of the right stuff on that front. Alex January is unique, obviously coming from Duncanville and what a program they have and the job that he did. But when you really look at a guy who's 6'5", 320 pounds, the guy was a baseball player all the way through his junior year of high school. And so every offseason, he didn't do any weight training because he was playing travel baseball. So 2 things tell me, big upside. He finally spent an entire year in the weight room at Duncanville. But 2, talks to the athleticism that this big guy has, right? The hand-eye coordination, the foot coordination. When you watch him play, the athleticism and the explosiveness that he plays with, we think this guy's got huge upside. Obviously a dominant year, player of the year in 6A on the defensive side of the ball. And then Dontre Robinson, very similar as well. This guy's well over 300 pounds, but the athleticism, you guys probably saw some clips earlier in the year of him catching touchdown passes, one-handed touchdown catches. So now getting him immersed with Coach Bo, getting him with with Coach Becton, we think all three of those guys will be impactful players for us in the program. How soon? That we'll see, right? Time will tell, but we think the future is very bright for those guys.
Stay over here on the left, Christina.
Steve, I know before the Houston game you gave a lot of praise to Matthew Golden, and now that you have him, how do you anticipate him to fit into the rotation, and do you expect him to play a role on special teams?
Yeah, I think, two things we were looking for in the portal at the receiver position was, one, obviously an experienced playmaker on the outside who was physical enough to play out there. He has good length. He's really well put together. He made a lot of big plays over 2 years at Houston. Clearly in our game, catches 2 touchdowns that were big catches at critical moments of that game. But on the flip side of that, we wanted to see if we could find some value in special teams. And, what he was able to do at Houston in the kickoff return game, very impactful there as well. He's more than adequate in the punt return game. So we're finding more than just a one-tool player, a guy who's physical, blocking on the perimeter, can play with the ball in his hands, has the ability to take the top off the defense, but also add value in the return game. So it was kind of a perfect fit for us when it came to what it could project to for our program moving forward.
Stay over here, CJ. Yeah, Coach, happy signing day. I know it's been a fun, long day for you and your staff, but over the last couple of years, there's been kind of a reputation thing about Texas about not developing, leaving some wins on the table, and that's trickled into the high school recruiting ranks. As this year has progressed and you've seen on-field success carry on, is that something you're still combating? Are you seeing a kind of a progression in reputation from high school recruits and coaches and everything along those lines?
No, I think that what ultimately we can all talk about what we're going to be. And when I got hired, I said we'd be the best developmental staff in the country. And I was very purposeful in the coaches that I did hire, in the development of the players that they've had historically, and then their success with a life after college in the NFL. And I think we saw a glimpse of that last year with the NFL draft, having those 5 guys drafted. When you have 2 defensive linemen drafted, 2 running backs drafted, and then DeMarvion at linebacker, we're trying to develop those players in our program. But as those players develop in the program, team success should start to follow, right? As everybody starts to develop, and naturally 5-7, 8-5, and now 12-1 in the college football playoff. Our players are developing, and I think we'll see that when the NFL draft comes around this year, that more of our guys getting drafted into the NFL. So I do think, the high school coaches recognize it when they're watching us play. I think the NFL recognizes it as they come out to practice, the scouts, and watch our guys. But now the high school players, the recruits are starting to recognize that. They're seeing players, getting recognized. Sometimes it's hard for them. It's who's getting developed and how. But when they're getting recognized for accolades, all conference, All-American awards, Outland awards, Senior Bowl representation, announcers talking about a player's development and how well he's playing, that starts to validate us, developing those guys. But I think we'll see even more of that recognition, like I said, when the NFL draft rolls around. But again, we're not combating it nearly as much as we were when we first got on board. And as I said then, I can't speak for what happened before we got here. All I can tell you is watch what happens now. And I think that, kind of the proof's in the pudding that it's happening.
On your far right, Joe.
You have 17 or 18 guys who are showing up here in January. How does that help them not only physically get ready, but just join them into the program and how things operate for your program?
That's probably the biggest change. I know we're talking about the portal and all these other things that are going on in college football, but this idea that it may be more than that. I mean, we may be up to 20 new players on our roster when we start school January 16th. And how does it help? I mean, it helps them individually, right? They're immediately immersed into our winter conditioning program. They're immediately immersed into our locker room and into our culture. They get a whole spring ball of practicing with us. Then when summer rolls around, they're just that much more comfortable. For us, what a difference in spring practice, and the fact that I almost have a full roster for spring ball. When normally in spring practice you're really limited. A lot of times at the line of scrimmage, man, we can't practice the way we want to practice. We can't two-spot practice where we got the 1s and 3s here, the 2s and 4s there, and everybody's practicing. A lot of times in spring practice we're on one field. Well, now we're gonna have 2 fields at our disposal. A lot of guys are gonna get reps. A lot of guys are gonna develop and get better as they grow. So that's the biggest change. And then getting them acclimated to college life. So it's a big job on us. That we're going to have to take on. But that's the biggest change right now. This early signing period is one thing, but having almost 20 guys show up January 16th and start school, that's probably the bigger change, but one that we welcome. I think it's great for us.
In the middle, Noah?
Hey, Coach, you talked a bit about bringing Makuba back. Just want to ask a little more about his fit. And then obviously, his former high school coach is on staff. Just how valuable Coach Fenner has been in that. And just, he's such a resource here in Texas, just kind of what he's meant to recruiting as a whole.
Yeah, I'll start with Makuba first. Again, we're getting a player who is, for 3 years, been a frontline starter at Clemson and has been playing football at a high level for a very good program, one that I have a ton of respect for Coach Sweeney and the job they do at Clemson. He's been in big-time games, big-time moments. So as much as, we're losing some veteran players in that secondary, especially at that safety position, to add a guy who has that much experience and has played in big games and in big moments, I think will be a really good calming effect for us. He's a really versatile player. He's played star. He's played safety. He's covered in man. He's plays physical. So for us, just that experience and the fact for him that he gets to come home, right, and to be back home, a place that I joked with him. I said, man, I wish I could have been here when you were coming out. Maybe you would have got to come here right out of high school. But it's great for him, right? And he's got a lot of friends on the team, and so that's a great opportunity. As far as Coach Fenner, going back to when we first got hiring Chris Gilbert, right, and the job that he did for 2 years with us in recruiting, B, the connection to the high school coaches for me, being a new coach here in the state of Texas and that connection to the coaches, Coach Gilbert did a great job. And what came out of it, he earned a full-time coaching position at North Texas. It's his birthday, by the way, today, so happy birthday, Chris Gilbert, if you're watching. But that then spurned, man, what an opportunity we have at that position. And so to go get Coach Fenner, a guy that actually Coach Banks knew all the way back at UTEP, right, when he was playing and Coach Banks was coaching. And so that connection to bring somebody else on board that has that connection to the high school coaches, has the local connection here, in Central Texas, and then the relationships that he forges with our current players, not just recruits, but our current players, that they have another sounding board for a guy that they can go to. And hopefully this will create opportunities for him in his future and where he wants to go in his career. And when that happens, man, what a valuable position that we have of how many guys would love for the opportunity to be. And then we can, again, try to find another really good person to fill it. So, but in the end, we're lucky to have Coach Fenner. He and his wife are awesome. They're great to have on staff.
On your right, Anwar?
Hey, Coach, you guys obviously did a really good job of out-of-state recruiting this season. And, of course, you and I are old enough to remember where it was just hard to get kids to leave, their state,
Yeah.
a specific region. Do you find that, today's kids, because of the travel, whether it's 7-on-7s or all the unofficials that they take, do you feel like they think more outside of the state? As much as you want to put a lock on the state, do you think they do think more globally?
Without question. And it's not, I think kids from Texas are going other places more than they ever have. I think kids in California are going places more than they ever have. I think kids in Florida are going places more than they ever have, and so on and so forth. I think 7-on-7 has played a factor in that guys are traveling now. They're going to play in other places. I think social media and the internet has provided that opportunity because more schools are seeing these kids more so than just the local schools that are getting their tape and know the high school coach. I also think summer visits have changed that because now guys are having the ability and have the time to take visits in the spring and in the summer as opposed to just in the fall. It's difficult when you live in California and I want to play Friday night and we have an 11 a.m. kick the next day. You got to try to get on a plane, get here, and then for us to spend really quality time with them, and then they have to turn around and fly back. Well, when they come in June, I get 48 hours with them, and I really get to spend time with them, and they're not rushed, and we can forge those relationships. But that's the same for the kid that's here in Texas and when he goes to visit somewhere else around the country. So I think all those things have added up to you're seeing more kids travel. You're seeing more parents comfortable with allowing their kids to travel. That doesn't mean that, man, we're not trying to sign every great player in the state of Texas. But unfortunately, we're not getting them all the way maybe we would like right now. We're going to continue to bang that drum and to try to make that happen, but we have to be flexible enough to reach beyond, and we have to make sure that they understand when they come here, the best players play in our program that do things the right way. It's not about necessarily where you're from. It's about making sure that you're doing things the right way and that you earn your opportunities. And I think that we're following through with that, and guys are having success in our program.
Over here on your left, Thomas.
Coach, you're losing a few guys in the portal probably before they want to go.
Yeah.
Which of those departures concerns you the most for this year's team getting ready for the CFP? What can be done to kind of correct that timing, for future seasons? And finally, you have a freshman quarterback who's I guess now your number 2 guy.
Yep.
What makes you think he's ready one snap away from playing?
Yeah, for all of our guys that had to go in the portal, prior to us playing in the college football playoff, I think it sucks. I hate it for them. They put in a lot of hard work. I mean, these guys since January have been busting their tails with our team. Whether, like I said, winter conditioning, spring practice, summer workouts, fall training camp, all season long, whatever their role was, whether they were a part-time player, a scout team player, a backup. They still committed a lot to this program, and for them not to have the ability to see that through, I hate that for them. It's different if we were just in a bowl game, and I hate saying just a bowl game, but I understand when you're in a bowl game, we're playing for a championship, and for these guys to feel like they're put in that position to, I need to get in the portal to solidify a spot. That's a little concerning and a little disappointing, knowing we're trying to preach commitment, right, and something that's a life value for them moving forward. But we do have some guys that did go in the portal and are continuing to be on the team, and we allowed them that opportunity to do that, which was a change for us philosophically than a year ago, understanding the timing of all that it was. Some guys have taken advantage of that. Casey Kane, Larry Turner Gooden, Sawyer Gorham Welch. All 3 of those guys are trying to find a home. A couple of them already went on visits and have said, that's where I'm going to go to school. But we've allowed them to stay and be part of our team through this journey. And I appreciate that because they are valuable to our team's success. We've had a few other guys that have said, I'm going to go in the portal and move forward and move on. And that's a little disappointing because they mean a lot to us and what they did. And so in the end, hey, when I go out to practice today, that's the team that we got. And we're going to field the best team that we have and put our players in the best position to be successful, whether they're a frontline starter and or a backup. Arch is the backup for this game. He's more than capable of playing really good football for us. I think the opportunity that he had to play here against Tech showed what he's capable of, and we'll get him prepared to play. I joke with him the other day. It's like, you're not really a freshman anymore. This is your sophomore year now, okay? And so what would it look like going into your sophomore year and preparing you to play? And that's what we're doing.
In the middle, Ross.
Offensive recruits who come here know that can count on you for calling plays, and not everybody does that when they become a head coach. Was it difficult, or how consuming is that to handle both duties?
I guess it's a lot. It does take time. I think time management's important. trusting the people that work with me, whether it's our offensive staff, from Coach Flood, Coach Milwee, and what they do coordinating it all, to Coach Banks with special teams and trusting him there, to Coach Choice and Coach Jackson of getting their guys ready to play. But it's also trusting our recruiting staff, with Billy Glasscock, Brandon Harris, Taylor Searles, Kendall Perry. They all do a great job in their aspect of what they do, to our operations staff and what Jared Blank does, and Jason Rodriguez and Zoe, and to my own assistant, to Kyra. Everybody has got jobs to do that ultimately help me do all of the jobs that are on my plate. And I trust them to do their jobs really well. And when things come back to me, I don't have to do all of that job to get it done. I can sometimes put the finishing touches on it or make some tweaks to it to allow me to do multiple things. That's game planning, that's play calling, that's recruiting, that's setting schedules. That there's a lot that goes into that. And so I'm fortunate that I've got a great staff around me, that I try my best not to micromanage. They might say differently sometimes, but I try my best not to, that I just trust them to do their jobs, and then ultimately so I can do the best job that I can do.
Sark, I know you mentioned health earlier. Just wonder if you could give an injury update on Worthy, Watts, and Jordan, how they're coming along. And then with Coach Choate taking the Nevada job, what were the conversations that you and he had, and what is the dynamic like for him where, he's got it on his plate that he's got to take over a program, but he still wants to be here to help. How do you and he determine kind of what makes sense for all parties in a situation like that?
Yeah. So health-wise, the coolest part for me was all those guys were practicing today, and all of them looked really good to me. Are they all quite 100%? I don't know, but I know that they look fast. They were running around, and that's a real positive, knowing we still have 2 weeks till the ball game. So I think everything's trending the right way on that front, and they were going, and so that part's good. That I think everybody will be available for the ball game, and that we're fortunate on that, and we should be having a month, right? We should be able to get everybody back. As far as Coach Choate, first of all, I'm so fired up for him. He took a little bit of a leap of faith when he came here. He's the head coach at Montana State. He'd built that program. They were competitive. They were compete for championships. And then to come here as a linebacker, co-DC, was a little bit of a leap of faith, looking for something maybe that could be even better in return, and making the investment that he did. And I'm sure, like all of us, he was thinking, what the heck am I doing when we were 5-7 after year one? Like, I don't know if this was the right move. But now after year 3 to be the head coach at Nevada, a great program. I know they're a little down on their times right now. We all get hired for a reason. And he'll do a heck of a job, okay? I think the positive for him in being here with us right now is that I've had to do it twice, right? I did it when I was at USC, and I took the head job at Washington in 2009. I stayed at USC to coach the Rose Bowl for that month of December. When I got the job here, I stayed at Alabama for another 10 days or whatever it was to finish that national championship season before I came on board here. And so he's got somebody there who's done it, who's lived it. I think, again, compartmentalizing is the best way to go about it. When you're here and your feet are on the ground here and we're game planning and we're in meetings and we're at practice, you're focused on those players. And Coach Choate understands the value of that, of the commitment that it takes and helping those guys win a championship. And he wants to win a championship, man. It's hard to be in the college football playoff, especially when it's 4 teams. It's hard to compete for a national championship, and we've earned this, and he's committed to that. When he walks out those front doors, he's right back on the phone trying to hire a staff, trying to recruit for Nevada. And I think one thing that COVID taught us, we can do a lot remotely nowadays. Zoom changed the world, FaceTime, phone calls, emails, whatever that is, you can get a lot of work done, and you don't have to be at that spot at that time. And something that I was able to take advantage of, like I said, when I got this job, and I know that he's doing a great job of that. And his athletic director, Stephanie Remp, and I worked together at Washington, and she knows what that looks like too. And so they're working well together, and I know he's doing a great job with us right now, but I know he's getting a lot of work done for them at the same time.
Time for two last ones. Start on the left, Danny.
Steve, it's quick spring cleaning. Is Derek unavailable for the first half because of the targeting penalty?
Correct, yes.
And then overall, just what are your thoughts about what recruiting is in 2023? I mean, I saw a bunch of you guys put up a bunch of billboards to
How
celebrate
cool
the
was
kids.
that? I don't know if you guys saw that, but those billboards are awesome, by the way.
So what are your thoughts about you guys having to pull out some of those stops for these kids?
Well, again, I think one thing, those kids had already signed. We were putting those billboards up to celebrate them in their hometowns, to recognize them with people that, all these kids, when they grow up, the whole community raises them. Their high school coaches, their little league coaches, their teachers, their principals, their moms and dads, their aunts, their uncles, all these people in that community. And so to celebrate them and to celebrate their community, that they're coming to the University of Texas, that's a heck of an honor that not just that young man is getting, but everybody in that community, that put in a lot of work and time and effort and driving them to games and workouts and things. And so that wasn't a recruiting tool for them. They're already signed with us. It was more about celebrating them and their community. But I thought it was a great touch that our recruiting staff did. But recruiting in this day and age is it's different. It's different. It's different when I had 2 weeks to recruit coming out of the Big 12 championship game up until our last weekend and finishing that up. And I try to make it a point to get to everybody's home because I think that that's important, to do a home visit with the young men that are, parents that are getting ready to send their kids away to come to school here with all those mid-years we're talking about. But at the same time, my phone keeps buzzing about so-and-so's in the portal, so-and-so's in the portal, so-and-so's in the portal. And you're like, man, managing all of that, not to mention I still have our own team and making sure that they're in the right frame of mind and finishing school and doing all that, it's a challenge. It's different. It's different than it's ever been. I don't know that the calendar we have right now is perfect, quite frankly. I think we may have to really look at an earlier signing period for some of these kids that know they took their visit in the summer. They know they want to come to the University of Texas. Maybe we should have an August signing period for those kids that, hey, I just want to go play my senior season. I know I'm going to Texas. That may alleviate some of the pressure that we have in those 2 weeks to get so much work done. But it is different, and so we'll see. The last thing I want to touch on that I'd be remiss to, that I'm really proud of our team about. We just finished up our fall semester in school, and we just got our grades back. And roughly, and not all the final grades are totally tallied, but we just got a 2.94 cumulative team GPA in the fall semester here at the University of Texas. And I say it to our players all the time, but who you are some of the time is who you are all of the time. So I don't think it's a coincidence that we're 12-1 playing in the college football playoff, and we just recorded the highest cumulative team GPA Texas football has gotten since 2008. So ironically, this is arguably the best team we've had here in 14 years, and we're doing the best in school that we've done in the fall in 14 years. I do think those two things go hand in hand. And so I'm really proud of our players for the commitment that they've made to the program. And I think that speaks to our culture, that they're doing things the right way. I'm very proud of them, and they should be, they should receive the accolades for that as well, as much as what they're doing on the field.
Last one in the middle, Bob.
I just wanted to touch on two of the receivers. If you talk a little about what Parker Livingston brings and what Ryan Wingo.
Yeah, and I really should hit on that whole group. And I'll just go down alphabetically. You know, I'll start with Freddie Dubose. I think we're getting a really competitive young man that comes from a great program. Smithson Valley, heck of a year, went to the state championship game. I think we all could see Freddie's, competitiveness, playmaking ability, one-on-one playmaking ability. So we're excited about what he brings. We touched on Matthew Golden, Parker Livingston, again, coming from a really good program at Lovejoy. I went and saw him play in person a year ago against Melissa and was extremely impressed. Myself and Coach Flood were at the game. He's got great length. He has great ball skills. But the thing where he surprises you is he will run away from you in a hurry. And he's got a very high football IQ. So I think we're getting a very good player there. And then Ryan Wingo, we're getting your prototypical, if you could go in the lab and how would you want to make a receiver, 6'2", 205, great length. He has elite speed, great long speed. Again, unbelievable young man, comes from a great family, really good high school program. Brother played in the NFL. So we're getting a football player that I think is going to fit in well to our system.
Coach, you want to run down the ones you didn't just talk about each of the guys?
Yeah.
The interior D-line is the only other group you talked about.
No, I'll hit on Trey Owens real quickly as well, starting at quarterback. Trey is a guy that you guys know me well enough now. I do not recruit based on stars. I don't, no offense to anybody that works for any of the companies, okay? But we try to trust our own evaluation. And Trey's been a guy that has been very impressive to us over the last 2 years. We have been watching him. We've had him in camp. We've watched him grow. We've watched him play really good football. Had an excellent senior season. Was the Houston Touchdown Club Offensive Player of the Year. I think some of you guys elevated him now to a 4-star. Maybe you're starting to see what we see, okay? But the guy's a heck of a player. Had a couple really good wins in the playoff this year, so we're excited to have him. Christian Clark, fits who we are offensively. I jokingly said, I remember writing my report up on him. I wrote Bijan Robinson with a question mark because he almost looks like him. Like the way he plays, the color of the uniforms. He runs the ball. He's got great balance and body control. He catches the ball extremely well out of the backfield. He's an extremely humble young man. Great family. I just think he's a great fit for what we do systematically, but also from a culture standpoint. Jarrett Gibson is a real runner. I mean, this guy can run the ball, obviously coming out of IMG, another really good program. But he is a physical runner. He's a home run hitter. I think his ability to run between the tackles and the way that we like to run the ball is a great fit. And again, I think culturally just an awesome young man that's going to fit really well into our culture. Bumping down to the offensive line, Brandon Baker, again, put him in a lab and spit out a left tackle. That's what they look like. I feel like I'm watching Kelvin Banks all over again. I've known Brandon a long time. Awesome young man. Very humble, but extremely hardworking, plays the game the right way, coming from Mater Dei. An awesome program that way. Daniel Cruz, interior offensive lineman. I think this guy has position flex, can play guard, could play center. Awesome young man. You go to the school, it's all the stuff that I look for. I see the player on tape. I go to the school, they mention the human being. And that's the things that I'm looking for, and that's exactly who he is. Nate Kibble the same way. I got to see him play as a really young player when I was going to evaluate a couple players a couple of years ago. And I said, man, that kid's going to be a player when he starts growing up. And he has really grown into himself, his body, physical guy, again, position flex for us, coming from a really good program. Atascocita has really grown as a program, and he's been one of the key components to that. At the edge position, I keep saying put him in a lab, but spit out Colin Simmons as an edge rusher. And what he's been able to do at Duncanville, obviously a high-profile recruit, but then you get to meet him, and what a humble young man and what he means to his family. I hope some of you had a chance to watch the video about him or read any stories about him, his family, his brother. Just a great young man, but he can rush the passer, and he knows how to get to the quarterback. He is an NFL pass rusher, and as we've talked about how we're trying to build our defense, I think he fits beautifully in that. Zena, again, we have his older brother here. I think this guy's just scratching the surface. He's going to grow into a very big man. He has got length. He defends the run well, coming from a great program at Allen. Same thing. When I go to the school and I talk to the coach about Zena, for the first 10 minutes, he didn't talk about the player. He talked about the leader. He talked about the person. He talked about how he leads in their program, in their off-season program. So again, same type of player that we're getting. At the defensive back position, Kobe Black, fantastic player. And again, we've been kind of recruiting Kobe a long time. You can go back to Trey Wisner when he was at school there, to Jelani McDonald now on our team. So now to get kind of the third piece of that puzzle, and Kobe, really versatile player. I mean, if you watch him now, the majority of his highlights this year were from the offensive side of the ball and what he did there. But a guy who really is a three-position player, can play corner. He could play star if we need him to. If we were really in a pinch, the guy could probably go play safety because he's so versatile of a player. Great family. Brother's a heck of a player at Oklahoma State. So love his addition. Xavier Filsami, real playmaker, man. This guy is born to be a DB. He's got coverage ability. He'll hit you. He's got a really high football IQ, really good awareness about him. Coming off the injury from his junior year, I think showed himself to really be healthy and had a heck of a year at McKinney. Jordan Johnson-Rubel, coming from IMG, again, another really versatile player. Not the biggest guy in this group, but then you turn on the tape of IMG, one of the more physical players on that defense, but position flex, so much that he does, and a real leader. This guy's a natural leader and a great person as well. His family's awesome. Wardell Mack, just what he did at John Ehret, same thing. You go to the school, the principal wants to talk to you about the person that he is, the leader that he is. Another really versatile player. I mean, this guy is tough. He is a football junkie. He loves the game. So we hit a real home run right there. Santana Wilson, we all know his dad, Adrian Wilson, great player in the NFL, now an NFL executive in player personnel. So this guy's got the genetics with the length, the skill set to again, play corner. Could be a versatile player. His dad was a great safety, all-pro safety in the NFL, but he's got that high football IQ that we're looking for in the versatility. And then obviously Michael Kern at punter, which we think is the best punter in the country. We think this guy's got a skill set for the future. Again, we were fortunate this year with Sanborn coming in as a stopgap, as a transfer, but now we're getting the high school kid that we're looking for. I think he's got a bright future for us. I'm sorry, Jordan Washington. I apologize, Jordan, if you're watching. But Jordan Washington, again, is got the ability to stretch the field vertically. He can make all the plays. The passing tree is unlimited for him. It was a position that we felt like we needed to fulfill. You know, we play the way our tight ends, we've kind of got that inline tight end, and then we've got that tight end that we like to flex out and move around, and Jordan gives us the ability to do that. He's got the basketball background that you look for, great ball skills, great length. I think he's going to become a really big man, but again, all of this, and I hate being belaboring this point, but these are all great kids. Like Jordan falls under that same category of like, what an awesome kid. And that's what our culture is about. And then they buy into the work ethic and they buy into our team. And so I can't say enough about all these guys that we signed, of how good we feel about them as human beings as much as who they are as players.
Got one last one, good to close on. Joe?
Coach, just a quick comment on volleyball.
That was awesome.
Following them now.
Man, it was interesting. And I'll tell the story that our players won't mind me telling, and I don't think Jarrett would mind me telling. So we were going into our season opener against Rice, and the pundits say we're supposed to just go beat Rice by how many ever points. And the week of that game, our volleyball team went and played, I believe it was Long Beach State, and got beat, coming off of being national champs. And I remember telling the story to the team, man, you have to prepare. You have to prepare to play and play to the best of your ability every time you go. And here's a great example. Here's Maddie Skinner. Here's Asia O'Neal. Here's all those great players. But on that day, Long Beach State beat them. And for whatever the reasons were, injuries, so on and so forth. And so I used that model going into that game. And what a job Jarrett and his staff and that team did, starting the season 5-3, to finish the year as national champs and to beat what was supposed to be the two best teams in the country, really the three best teams in the country consecutively, going from Stanford to Wisconsin to Nebraska, and to do it in the fashion that they did. They were playing their best volleyball at the end of the season. And I thought it was fitting, and I talked to the team about this. They did an interview with Madison Skinner after the game, and there was a moment there she got a little emotional, and it was great. I loved every second of it. But she said, we were the best team in the country at the end of the year. We were peaking at the right time. We're playing our best volleyball right now. And I went into the team meeting the next day, and I said, I almost felt like Madison Skinner was talking about us, because we played our best two games of the year the last 2 weeks of the season. And now we need to continue to do it as we go into this Sugar Bowl to play our best brand of football of what it's going to take, because that's what it takes to be a champion. And so very inspiring, so fired up for Jarrett, his staff, those girls. They had a heck of a season to be back-to-back national champs. And, hopefully, we can do our part to try to keep the momentum going here at Texas. There's a lot of great stuff happening here on the 40 acres right now, and so we have an opportunity to do something special here starting January 1st.
Thanks, Coach.